Hi everybody, welcome back to my series. Again, my name is David Hantman, and I'm a real estate agent in Coldwell Banker here in South Florida. I'm doing this because just want to, with all the years of doing real estate, talking to other realtors and whatnot, this just is a basic idea on people that are interested in buying a home. You may be a first-time buyer or a person that's going to be selling their home and buying another home or downsizing, and it's been many, many years, so you may have some questions about, again, buying a house, and also we're covering how to sell your house, so this is great for sellers as well. And I tell everybody, even if you're buying a house, to even continue to watch a series to learn about what sellers do and how, we are important as real estate agents, the reason why to hire an agent. So if you've been watching this series, I've been giving you some great information. Today, I want to continue on. Talking about selling your home, but I'm going to take a little bit break on this episode. And what I want to do is answer some questions because some people have been emailing me some questions, which is great. So again, if you have any questions, my email is right here down below. So go ahead and email me a question. So I'll either answer you through email, or I can also, just like now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some time and actually read some of the questions and participate here with some of the questions. This is a question from Kathy in St. Louis, Missouri. And her question is, what is the difference between a short sale and a foreclosure? Which is a great question. Short sale. I'm going to try to sum this up. So if there's people out there, other realtors, I'm just going to try to make this simple. Short sales are basically people who bought their home, they have a mortgage, and for whatever reason they got into financial crisis. Maybe they lost their job, they can't afford the home, maybe there's a two-income home, maybe one of the persons in the two-income lost their job, so maybe their expenses now are cut in half and they just can't afford to pay their mortgage. Some people just stop paying their mortgage because they feel that their house is what they call underwater. They're paying more than what the house is really worth, so some people just walk away. But that's another topic about that, and maybe we'll touch base on that during this series down the road. But for whatever reason, the person can't pay, so the bank steps in, and the bank. I'm not a fan of banks, but what happens is the bank turns around. The bank doesn't want the house. The bank rather not foreclose or evict you or whatever. The bank wants you to make payment. The bank is in business to make money. They're not in the business of collecting homes and getting in the real estate business and selling houses. So what they do is they'll reach out. Obviously, if you don't pay your mortgage, they're going to contact you, send you letters and all that other stuff. One of the options that banks, or you can talk to your bank, is a short sale. And what the short sale is basically, and just for conversation, is let's say you owe $100,000 to the bank. The bank will allow you to sell your house for, let's say, below market value or even below what you owe. So let's say the house is worth $150,000, you owe the bank $100,000. The bank will allow you to sell the house, let's say, for $70,000 or $80,000. So what happens is you make an agreement with the bank. Now, just because it's a short sale, the bank still can't foreclose on your home, just because, let's say, you take a short sale. And Kathy, I don't know, what your circumstances is, if it's for, if you're going to do a short sale, or if it's somebody that or maybe it's a friend or something like that doing the short sale. But what happens is, if you're in your home and you're going to do a short sale, the bank still can go through foreclosure proceedings to evict you out of the house. But what a short sale does commonly, it just keeps you in the house a little bit longer. So this way you can try to sell your house at a reasonable price. So the bank can go ahead and say, okay, we accept that offer. So you get a realtor, they sell your house, it's way below market price. A buyer comes ahead and now goes ahead and puts in an offer, you do a contract, and the contract now goes to the bank. The bank, just because you and the buyer agree, the bank has the ultimate say because the bank has to agree on that negotiated price. So let's say the negotiated price is $75,000. Now remember, there's a deficit of $25,000. The bank is just, well, in some cases, the bank will forgive you, the person that owns the house and owns the bank, the $25,000. In many cases, depending on the bank, they want that $25,000. So they'll say, okay, you can sell your house, that $75,000 we'll put towards your mortgage, which was $100,000. Now there's a $25,000 balance. So what they'll do is they'll work with you on a payment plan on that $25,000. So that's what a short sale is. What they do is they short the loan. So now let's say you buy the house. Now the problem with short sales, and I'm not a fan of short sales, there's a lot of realtors out there that do great with short sales. I'm not one of those realtors that do short sales. I'm not a fan of it. The reason being is because the process can take a long time. Short sales can take, I've heard stories that they closed in 3-4 months, and I've heard horror stories that it took over a year. And there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of craziness that goes on, and then what happens, the buyer gets frustrated, and if you're an agent representing the buyer, then you get bashed. It's in lots of cases, the buyer says, you know what, I'm canceling it, and they walk away from the deal and they find another property, and they may even fire you as the buyer gets fired from the agent as well because they think that you as the agent screwed up the whole thing and you're the reason why. So again, it's one of those things that I'm not thrilled with short sales. So that's the process of the short sale. Now, let's say if you don't sell your house, let's say you do have a short sale situation, the bank says, okay, do the short sale, and then you sign the papers and okay, you can do the short sale, and you don't sell a house, well then the bank can foreclose on the house because again, you're not paying them and they want payment. So what they do is they'll proceed to foreclose the house. I like foreclosures. I mean, it's a terrible thing for the people that are, you're in the house. Kathy, if you're in a situation where you're not paying and you're not selling your house, again, I don't know your situation because you didn't email me in details, but again, Kathy from Missouri, if you're in a situation where the house is being sold, you can't get a buyer, the bank eventually will go to foreclosure. What they do is they go through the foreclosure proceedings, they evict you from the house, and then the bank takes ownership of the house. So a foreclosure is basically, in just simple terms, the bank basically evicts you from the house and takes ownership of the house, and now it's a bank-owned property. A bank-owned property is actually, I like bank-owned properties because it's dealing like another person. Again, there's still, as an agent, there's a little bit more paperwork involved, but for the buyer, it's just like dealing with an individual. Now, on a foreclosed property, the great thing is that, the banks aren't in the business of inventorying houses. They're in the money business. They want the money. So what they'll do is, let's say the house is valued at $150. They'll list the house. They'll get an agent and they'll list the house for $140, $130, $135,000. And again, they'll sell the house, and it's just minor paperwork for the buyer, but no big deal. And then the transactions are usually very smooth when it's a foreclosure, and then the bank relieves themselves from that house, and they get their money. And then, of course, if you're the ex-owner of that house, the bank is going to come after you for the difference. Some banks will forgive you for the loan. Some banks will come after you, so that all depends on the bank. So I hope that answered your question, Kathy in St. Louis, Missouri. We'll do another question. This question, perfect, in my state. This is a question from Tony in Orlando, Florida. And he wants to know what is an as-is contract. And Tony, that's actually a very, very, very good question. Again, I don't know if you're purchasing a house or whatever the case may be, but here in Florida, and I'm only a real estate agent in the state of Florida, so I can only tell you about the state of Florida. I don't know what happens in other states. But here in Florida, we have what we call an as-is contract. So if you're watching this and you're in the state of Florida and you're thinking of selling your house or you're buying a house, the as-is contract is actually the one that everybody's using right now. It's the contract of contracts. It is what it is. It's an as-is contract. You are the buyer. You go in, you see the house. If there's a crack in the floor or the walls, have holes in it, the appliances aren't working, It's as is. You buy it as is. If the air conditioning needs a little fixing, the roof is cracked, it has leaks, you buy it as is. Now, of course, if it's that badly damaged, you're going to get a reduced price, because obviously, the seller of that house, if the house has mold, the roof is leaking, the walls are damaged, the appliances aren't working, they can't get top dollar for it. But again, you know what you're getting yourself into. It's as is. Now, just because it's an as-is contract, a lot of buyers will ask for the seller to fix the place up, regardless if the place just has minor details. No, the seller doesn't have to, because if you agree on the as-is contract, the as-is says it's as-is. The seller is not obligated to fix anything in the house. You get it the way it is. However, as the buyer, you do have an option. Built into the as-is contract is they give you if you leave that part of the contract blank, if the agent that you're working with leaves it blank, you have 15 days to get, it defaults to 15 days. So you have 15 days to get the home inspected. Most agents that other agents, most agents that I know, we always put down 10 days, have a home inspection. The buyer's responsible for that home inspection. It can range anywhere from, depending on a condo to a single family house, the price ranges from $250 to $450 to $500, depending on the company you use. And usually, if you have a buyer's agent, you're the buyer, your agent will guide you to which home inspector. They usually have one or two, and then they'll hire the home inspector that they normally work with, or whatever the case may be. And the home inspector will come out right away within a day or two. A good home inspector will start from the outside. They'll jump up on the roof. They'll inspect the roof, the property, the walls, the foundation. They'll go inside. They'll check everything from the plumbing, the electrical. They'll take pictures. Anything that's wrong with that house, they'll uncover it. Now, a home inspector is what they are. They're not there to fix it. They're not a contractor. They're just there to give you the basic ideas of what's wrong with the house. So what happens if you get that home inspection report, and usually as the buyer, when you're paying for this independent home inspection, you get the report within a day or two. And then within that day or two, you'll know exactly what's wrong with the house. So in that 10-day period, you have a right to cancel the contract, walk away, and the seller can't do anything to you legally. You can't do anything to the seller. You get back your escrow, or you can keep the escrow in your escrow and then have your agent look for another house and roll that in escrow into another property. But the general rule is, a lot of people get freaked out by the home inspection. To the buyers out there, home inspection is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing, so you know what's going on with the home. Now, granted, if the home inspection report comes back, and the home inspector will give you an estimated value of what needs to be fixed and how much it will cost, and those are estimates. Sometimes they estimate a little on the high side, which is fine. But my general rule is anything under $10,000 or $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. If it's a lot of little things like a leaky faucet, the oven isn't heating up, or maybe the AC just needs a little fixing up. Those are minor things. If the plumbing is good, the roof is in great condition, there's no mold or mildew, there's no termites in the house, the electrical is up to code, there's no cracks in the foundation, there's no leaks all over the place, then you know what? Usually the home inspection report will come up to be about $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, or under $6,000. There's no need to freak out and cancel it and run to the agent and start having a heart attack over a little minor stuff. The idea is you want to make sure the meat and the potatoes, the actual structure of the house, the meat and potatoes is good. You want to make sure there's no mold or mildew, there's no termites, the roof is in great condition, there's no leaks in the roof, the electrical, the plumbing. Those are the main issues of the house, and those are the ones that cost the most. Don't expect a home inspector to come in and say, oh, the paint. No, they're not going to talk about the paint or their sconces on the floor or whatever the case may be. Those things are not. The home inspector goes in there and does the technical part of the house. So if it's under $6,000, if you're a home buyer and it's minor stuff, it's a lot of little minor stuff. Yeah, I know the $6,000 adds up, but again, if you ask your agent to negotiate a price, the agent can negotiate, maybe lower the price a little bit and say, hey, you know what, there's $6,000 worth of damage in the house, but the seller is not obligated to do it, because the seller is going to I guarantee it, I will tell you as clear as day, the seller is going to turn around and say no. It's an as-is contract, so the seller gets it the way it is. Now, of course, if there's major damage and the seller, there's $20,000 worth of problems in the house and it's crazy, the roof is leaking, it's old, there's wrong with the plumbing, the electrical, and the seller is willing to fix it, then yeah, by all means, as the buyer, you have the right to cancel it. So that's where the as is. Now, after that 10-day period, you sit around as the buyer and you're not sure and and days go by and after that 10-day, 12 midnight, that's it. You can't go back anymore. You agree to what's wrong with the house. You agree to the home inspection report. You have to go forward because now you can't cancel. You can cancel, but you'll most likely lose your escrow. You can possibly have a lawsuit, whatever the case may be on the seller side. So again, it's one of those things that, after the 10 days, then the contract really goes into effect. It's the home inspector, that's your time that you can cancel your contract without any penalty or without any issues on the seller side. After that 10 days, that's it. It's over. You have to continue going through it, and that's it. Now, again, as the buyer, if you go, the 10 days goes by, you pass the 10-day period, don't hock your agent who's representing as the buyer that the house is this, the house is that, the house is this is wrong with the house, and start nitpicking to try to get a lower price. Because again, the seller's just going to turn around and say no, especially now after the 10-day period, and they're going to say no, it's an as-is contract. I'm sorry, you have to take it. We're not responsible for fixing it. Some cases, a seller might say, okay, I'll fix this. I'll just put this in, and and be with it, and that's it. But again, it's not something to freak out over. Just a little side note, one of my first clients, when I first got in the business, she purchased a condo. There was nothing wrong with the condo except for the garbage disposal in the sink. She was freaking out. Now, a garbage disposal costs around, $100 with labor. Someone comes in and fixes it. She was ready to cancel that contract over $100 garbage disposal in the sink, that incinerator in the sink. It ended up that I just pressed the reset button, and guess what? The garbage disposal was working inside the sink. And she was going crazy over a garbage disposal. That was the only thing that was wrong with this condo. So just like I said, it's nothing to get alarmed. Don't freak out. It's when the home inspector gets these major issues, that's where you want to go ahead and start maybe renegotiating to a better price, or you can cancel. But if it's a lot of minor stuff, little small things, don't freak out. A floor that has a little crack in it, it's no big deal. Maybe the refrigerator is old, it's no big deal. Most likely you're going to end up buying another refrigerator anyway. If one of the faucets is leaking, but it's not a major leak, it's no big deal. These are quick, easy fixes that you can get a simple handyman, or you can do it yourself and fix it. So again, don't freak out. A home inspection report is not something that you want to cancel over, because you have to really sit back and really have a clear mind, and again, consult with your realtor on that as well. That will be the last question. I only took 2 questions because again, both questions were very good, and I wanted to give a nice little detail and explain about those questions and stuff like that. So I want to thank Tony from Orlando and Kathy from St. Louis, Missouri. So again, if anybody out there that's watching this, you have any questions, by all means, the email address is down here below. Email me questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Either I'll read it off, from the paper, and I'll share it with everybody in the audience, or I'll just do it privately, depending on how much time I have. The next episode, what I'll do is I'll continue with selling the house, and answer one question, because since I'm going to be covering selling the house, I'm going to just put in one question, and then we'll go from there. Thank you again for watching, and again, this is David Hantman. I'm a real estate agent here in South Florida with Coldwell Banker, and again, if you have any questions, give me the email.